for the last 2 weeks, I have eaten essentially nothing but meat and butter and coffee. So how did this start? So I guess it was 3 weeks ago, my dad sent me a text and said, hey, you got to go check out Joe Rogan's podcast about this carnivore diet thing. He'd been trying it, and he was telling me about the energy that he was having. He was telling me about the weight loss that he was enjoying. It was all these positive things, and I was a little skeptical at first, because I mean, in a perfect world, that would be my ultimate diet. To be able to eat nothing but meat and steak all the time. So I thought, oh yeah, that's got to be too good to be true. But I went and I watched the podcast, and it was very compelling. And what was more compelling than Jordan's version of that was his daughter came on, and she was suffering from all sorts of terrible food allergies and all sorts of problems, and went to a strict carnivore diet and changed her life. You can go watch those if you want. They're really interesting. So I started digging around a little bit and thinking, this is very interesting. And I mean, I know the evidence is anecdotal from, there's not a lot of science behind it, but I've always felt that way personally, that there was just nothing that satisfied me that satiated me like meat, especially beef and steak. I mean, I've tried vegan diets and vegetarian diets, and I just had a horrible time. Hate vegetables, hate the food, dread every meal. So having something like this was very appealing to me. So I thought, well, what's the harm? What can go wrong if I try it for a couple weeks? And so I did that. And so here's my experience. So what I've been eating is we get up early, around 5 o'clock, 5:30 or so, and we have the Bulletproof coffee, which is a strong coffee. I make it in the blender, and I make 28 ounces, and half for Mrs. W and half for me. So that's 14 ounces per. We have these great big cups that we have. So in that coffee, and good high quality coffee, I started with half a cube of butter, and I'm pretty much almost up to a full cube of butter. I know, and that MC something coconut oil, I put that in there too. It's flavorless and tasteless. So what you get is you blend this up, and you put the butter in there, and you percolate the coffee into the deal. You get this super rich, buttery, it's just delicious. It's absolutely delicious. I can't hardly go back to lattes or any other coffee after this. So I have that, and what I like about that is that there's so much fat in it, good butter fat, organic butter, that it carries you through the day. You don't feel like you need breakfast. You have that fat and you have that energy. And then whenever I feel like it, I get my grub on with some steak. And I'm talking a lot of steak, because I'm only eating once a day, about once every 22 hours or so. And so what I've done is we went to Costco, and I bought steaks that have a lot of fat in them. Like what I've found to be my favorite have been ribeyes and New York T-bones, ribeyes and T-bones. Because I eat all the fat. I eat the whole thing. I don't eat the bone, but I eat all that stuff. I've been kind of staying away from the leaner cuts, and so I'll grub on that. I mean, I'm talking 30 ounces, 40 ounces of steak. If they're little ones, I'll cook 3 of them. If they're bigger ones, I'll eat 2, and that's it. I'm good. I'm satisfied. I had a delicious meal. I'm not hungry at night, and then I'm having the benefit of the intermittent fasting. If you want to just see something that's fascinating, go in and start studying what happens with fasting and what fasting does, what they're finding fasting does to cancer cells. And I mean, it's a whole nother thing. I'm not an expert on it, but it's interesting. So that's what I do. And the nice thing about it is that I don't have those where you're super hungry, like in the middle of the day, where you feel like you need a snack or you need a chips or candy or something like that. That roller coaster ride, you get from doing that. So I have that. You eat as much as you want. You eat a whole roast if you want to. It doesn't make any difference. I have that meal, and then fasting all the way until the next morning when I have my coffee. So I try to keep a window of that from the time I have that coffee to the steak, whatever that is, no more than 8 hours. 6 hours is even better, and then it'll carry you through, man. I mean, it's great. So how does it feel, and what's the difference? So what I have noticed is stripping everything away, no sugar, no carbohydrates, none of those things. What I've found is a very even keel, a very sharp in the brain, sharp mind, clearness of thought, no hunger, no cravings, no digestive problems, just a very even keeled, I guess is a good way to put it. What I also found is by stripping out I think for me, the carbohydrates, the pastas and the breads and all those things, that's where the weight comes from. That's where all of the brain fog for me comes from. It really affects me. I mean, I love it. Who doesn't like to have a pasta or bread? I mean, I grew up with bread with every meal. It was kind of hard to give that up. But what I'm finding now is after 2 weeks, I don't really miss it. So my other thing that I was worried about was scurvy. You know, it's like, well, if you don't have any fruits or vegetables, because I read a lot about the old guys, you know, when they were on the sailing ships and they didn't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables. What I've found, what a lot of people are believing, that is if you strip the carbohydrates out, then you don't have near the requirement for vitamin C. So what's interesting is there's a guy, Dr. Shawn Baker. He's kind of the leading guy of this carnivore diet. And he's got a whole bunch of YouTube videos, and he's been doing this, I think, for over 2 years, and has been documenting this, you know, very scientifically and kind of initiating some studies and all that. What they're finding is that people that are doing this are not getting scurvy, and they're not suffering from any of these maladies that everyone would tell us that you would be, and just the opposite. So it's quite an interesting thing. So will I continue to do this? No, I don't think so, because I'm getting a little bit bored with it. I mean, I love steak as much as anyone does, but I do crave some fruits and a little bit of different variety. So I think what I'm going to do is starting today, is I'm going to introduce fruits and vegetables, and I'm going to stay away from the carbohydrates. I think that's the big problem. I think that's what really causes the issues. 2 other benefits I don't want to neglect was, of course, weight loss. So from doing this for 2 weeks, so I went from 200, well, I'm down to 190. We'll just say that. I'm down to 190 where I wanted to be, and very lean, and feel very strong. The nice thing about it is all of the areas on me that was, you know, that just fat, like on the sides, you know, kind of the love handles and up in the chest area, and you know, just kind of squishy and the flabby stuff is gone, being replaced by muscle. So what I'm finding is that my weight is starting to creep up, but all of that fat is just going away because I'm just not ingesting it. So it's burning off of my body, and what's being brought back, you know, I'm gaining, you know, like maybe a pound and a half a week or so, but it's coming back with muscle. And my energy level is really good, and it's just fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. I know this is a very controversial subject. I mean, even more controversial than veganism, vegetarianism. I mean, it seems like everyone is pretty much opposed to this. But you gotta think about it. You gotta think about where is this information that I have gotten in my brain about what is nutritious and what is a good diet? Where did it come from? Is it the food pyramid that was set up, you know, 80, 100 years ago? Is it vegetarian or veganism propaganda or dogma? Is it what my parents told me or whatever? Sometimes you got to look at yourself. It's like, and look at it really objectively. Well, what makes me feel good? What is helping me out, and what is taking away from my quality of life. So I don't care, and you can comment all you want. I don't care about your veganism. I don't care about your vegetarianism. I don't care what you think I should be or should not be eating. Again, it's this experiment. It's a short-term deal. And I think what's interesting about it is if you're just that guy that's have a hard time losing weight and just continuing, you know, put those pounds on, what do you got to lose to try it? You like steak, right? So try it for a couple weeks. I mean, can you do it for 4 weeks? Can you do it for a month? Yeah, of course you can. You know, make preparations. It's easy to do. When you go out, there's not hardly any place in this country anywhere that you can't order steak. Yeah, you're going to become a bit of a pariah with your friends. You know, anytime you have any strange food deals, you know, no one wants to invite you over because it makes everyone uncomfortable. So you might just say, you know what, today I'm fasting today, so I'm happy to come over and enjoy in the company, and maybe you're not eating. So it's easy to eat on the road. If you're a trucker or something, you can make your own beef jerky. I'm going to start doing that. I'll do a video on that here pretty soon. You can make your own beef jerky. Just because you buy it in the store doesn't mean it's good. Look at the ingredients. You'll see that corn syrup is number 1, number 2, or number 3. You know, stay away from that stuff and all the artificial flavors. And you can make your own. So you can do that. So you can make it ahead of time. You can make it in bulk. You can take it with you. So it's easy. Jack and I went dirt biking the other day and took my beef jerky with me, and it was great. So yeah. So I know you have opinions. I know you think what's best. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I'll guarantee you in the comments, everyone's going to be at loggerheads and everybody's going to think that they're right and not necessarily. So you know your own body and you know what you should do. So the point that I'm making is, I'll close with this, is try it for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. And then if you're feeling good, if you're seeing positive benefits, then maybe start introducing different things. You know, maybe start bringing in potatoes or Brussels sprouts or whatever, these things that you like, to make your diet a little bit more varied. Because it is a little tedious after 2 weeks. When I was Sean Baker, when I was watching his videos, that he's had nothing but meat for 2 years, I thought, ooh, I mean, I love a good steak, but that's pretty hardcore. I don't know if I'm willing to go that far, but you could start introducing things in and find out what works for you. But the thing that's the most appealing to me is to be not hungry and to enjoy what I'm eating, and to have to eat once a day. That to me is a huge thing. And when I'm really doing a lot of research and studying on this fasting and the benefits of fasting, and the more I see it, the way it ties into eating 1 meal a day is really great. We don't need 3 meals a day. It's just not, unless you're some sort of a elite athlete or doing just crazy, ridiculous physical work, you know, then there's a calorie intake. But for just common people, especially if you're working in the office or you have a job at sitting, you just don't need it. You start training yourself and you get that big protein load in, and you don't need it. It's interesting. I even put a half a cube of butter on my steaks. it's swimming in it. It's swimming in it, but it's delicious. It's delicious. So more to come on this. I'll give you updates on that. And Brian and I, we got to get back to our firewood. I get anxious. I like to have my firewood brought in. We have firewood brought in for probably 5 or 6 years, but you want to stay ahead of that, right? All right. Thanks for watching, and leave your comments below. Thanks for watching. Click the thumbs up, and we'll see you guys on the next video.